So the world famous Riley Gaines is in Fargo, North Dakota. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I could not be more excited to be here. So,
describe your life the last several months here.
It's been a whirlwind, to say the least. Of course, this was never a position that I myself was personally prepared for or never planned for. Nevertheless, would have imagined a position it would be necessary for anyone to be in. But here we are. So it, of course, entails a lot of traveling. I do a lot of state legislative work. So I testified this week in Alaska. We had a big win in Idaho this week. Another big win, hopefully we're going to see sometime today or tomorrow in Mississippi. I do a lot of work, of course, at the federal level. So it's a lot of traveling. It's a lot of patience. That's something I've had to definitely learn and develop is patience. But really, I could share what I'll be sharing here tonight until I'm blue in the face, because it's a hill I'm willing to die on.
And talk a little bit about that message you want. And you're on a campus for a reason, right?
I am.
This is about the next generation, this battle, correct?
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. A big goal, a big push of mine is to get on these college campuses and engage our youth, people my age, right? A Generation Z. I recently graduated from college myself. I understand the environment, the climate of college campuses, and really how much you're deemed essentially a criminal for having these views. But to inspire, equip, embolden the youth, that's what we need, because again, it's ultimately our future that's at stake. But you asked about the message. It's very simple. I want to share, what it takes to be an elite athlete. I don't think people really can quite understand unless you've been in that position or have a child in that position. Of course, what we went through at that national championships in regard to the unfair competition in the locker room and the silencing that we face from our universities. The broader picture here, helping people understand this is a lot bigger than just women's sports. The impact that's been had these past 2 years, how North Dakota has been a leader on multiple fronts on this issue. And then what we can do as everyday people, again, as young students, as parents, as coaches, as spiritual leaders, we all have a role here. But
it scares a lot of people, right? I mean, I think a lot of people are reluctant to say, as soon as I do that, I'm going to kick a hornet's nest and I'm going to be swarmed, and because the opposition is loud,
exactly,
angry, not necessarily strength in numbers, right? I don't think.
No.
But give our listeners and our viewers the encouragement that it's worth it to get in that battle.
It is. I kind of believed that too at first when I, initially was thrust into this position. I believed what I was told. I believed that I would lose all my friends and I would lose my family members and my scholarship. I would lose future job opportunities. I believed that because that's what I was told. But I will tell you, while yes, there is some heckling, I'm not going to sit here and lie. Of course, there is some name calling, most of the time behind a screen from an anonymous profile. Of course, that exists. It's real. But what people don't understand is the support that I've received tenfold anything negative, truly. The amount of messages I get from parents or young female athletes themselves reaching out saying, thank you. You've given me the courage to say something. I'm dealing with this in my own way, and listening to you, hearing you, you've inspired me. That's what makes it worth it. And again, if this isn't something we're willing to make that sacrifice for, then what in the world would you make a sacrifice for? Again, this is incredibly basic. It's simple. It's merely being willing and able to say, the emperor wears no clothes.
Bring us back to when you first realized that you were in the middle of a battle you never wanted to be in. Just when the moment you're at this tournament, I mean, did you have an idea this was coming? Just bring us back into your thought process going through this.
No.
It's all that match lit this fire.
So it was our national championships, which is of course the meet you work all year, really all your life for. And the NCAA allowed a male to compete with the women. Of course, this was a male who was 6'4". He swam 3 years prior on the men's team at UPenn, ranking 500s, 400s nationally at best, before deciding to switch to the women's team, where of course he then dominated, winning national titles and such. But he and I raced in the 200 free, which ultimately resulted in a tie. But despite tying, the NCAA when being awarded the trophies and named an All-American and brought out into the podium, they told both Thomas and myself, again, Thomas who's towering over me, they said, hey, good job you two, but you tied, and we only have one trophy, and we're gonna give it to Leah. And when I asked why, why are you giving the trophy to the man and the women's 200 free, they said it was necessary when photos were being taken. They had been advised that that's why they had to do that. And that was the moment when, really, reducing everything that we had worked our entire lives for down to a photo op, that's when I knew I would take a stand. I waited for so long for someone else to, and it was in that moment I realized I was done waiting.
Common sense, right? This just seems like really, men would be allowed to compete in women's sports. Come on, no way, no how, just basic, simple fairness. Who are we arguing with? Who are we up against?
Crazily enough, the feminists, which blows my mind, right? You have these groups, these prominent female figures who have for so long fought for women and championed women and women's rights. They're the ones we're up against. We're up against the people in the White House right now, of course stemming from the tippy top, our government at all levels really, whether it's local, state, or federal. Seemingly this has fallen entirely almost on party lines, so not to make this issue political, but the left in terms of our elected officials, that's who we're up against. We're up against the media. They paint me as some anti-trans bigot who doesn't think trans people should play sports. Let me be the first person to say, my stance is not anti-trans, it's pro-woman, it's pro-fairness, it's pro-reality, it's pro-common sense. That's what I'm fighting for. Of course I believe trans people should play sports, just the same as anyone. I actually encourage trans people people who identify as trans to play sports because I got to see the benefits. I reap the benefits of playing sports and no one should be denied that. But you play in a category that is one, safe, and two, fair. I don't understand how that's controversial.
How do we help you?
Well, being here, this is huge, of course, in terms of spreading awareness. To your point, this is North Dakota. People say, oh, it's not happening here. That would be your first mistake. The university systems here, including this university, they allow males who identify as women to be housed in dorm rooms with women. I've talked to many students who say, hey, I've got a man living in my dorm room with me, in my same room, sleeping in a bed inches away from mine, and there's nothing I can do. Or I'm told I will be charged with sexual harassment if I complain about this. So understand of course it's happening everywhere, but it's happening here, in your backyard right here in North Dakota. So be mindful. Make sure that you're staying on top of things. You're talking to your legislators, your senators, your representatives. Make sure you're defending your kids, defending your daughters, teaching your sons how to be strong men. All of these things are things that parents, athletes themselves, just everyday people, that's what we can do.
Thank you for standing up for girl power.
Of course. Thank you.
You're awesome. Thanks a bunch.
Well, I appreciate you, truly. This is awesome.